After Iron Man made quite a bit of money, Kevin Feige decided to go on with a Hulk film to be the second film in the MCU. He did not wait long. In fact, he waited 1 month because Iron Man came out May of 2008 and The Incredible Hulk came out June of 2008. So let's talk about. Before I give you guys my thoughts on The Incredible Hulk, what do you think of this film? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's overrated? Do you think it's underrated? Whatever you think of this film, let me know your guys' thoughts. Now, I always was a big fan of The Incredible Hulk. Now, I always knew he was one of the weaker MCU films. I never thought it was like high MCU film by any stretch of imagination, but I always thought it was still a very exciting, very entertaining film. And why maybe as an MCU film it's a bit bland, but as a film altogether I think it's quite okay. And that's where I stand today. As an MCU film, it's not very solid. I don't actually think there's a bad MCU movie. Before we get into any other MCU film in my MCU series, I want to get this straight. I do not think there is a bad MCU film. Even my least favorite MCU film, I still think is pretty good. I would give all MCU's films positive reviews. But this film is a bland movie. And I think the MCU, if it's not great or good, the worst is they're just bland. And I think this film is very bland. It's not as good as Iron Man, and because this movie is a very weird movie, because it is not the sequel to the 2003 Hulk, like some people say. It's barely in the MCU. It's Edward Norton is the Hulk instead of Mark Ruffalo. Universal did it, and it's still part of the MCU, but besides that end-credits sequence, or I guess the end of the film where Robert Downey Jr. comes into play, there's nothing that really ties this film to the MCU or makes it unique. This is a very black sheep film for the MCU. And while I understand why people don't really like it, I still personally think it's okay. Again, the definition of this film is either okay or it is downright bland. Not bad, just bland. And I think people kind of get this thing mixed up. You either love a film or you hate a film. I'm right dead in the center of this film. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think it's okay. And let's talk about Edward Norton is my personal favorite Hulk slash Bruce Banner. I really think so. Mark Ruffalo isn't bad by any means, but Edward Norton, he has the look and he acts like how I think I would like my Bruce Banner to act. He's nerdy, but he's also not afraid to get in fight when he's not the Hulk. Bruce Banner, in my opinion, was a nerd, but was smart. Mark Ruffalo got the smarts part down, and the nerd part down, but he didn't really get the overall quirky comedy down. He tried to be funny, and in my opinion, I don't really find Mark Ruffalo that funny. And why Edward Norton is not like a comedy guy or anything, he's still pretty funny in this film. And the rest of the cast, I think, is really solid. The performances of this film are easily the standout sequences. Why is the Hulk not the standout sequence? The first time we see the Hulk, he's in the shadows, and it's a really cool scene. It's kind of like a horror film. But then when he comes in broad daylight, that CGI does not hold up, and it's very. It's weird, okay? The CGI in this film is very strange. It doesn't work. And I would like it to work, but it doesn't work. This is not a very convincing looking Hulk, and the Abomination actually looks pretty terrible. Not horrendous, but not very good either. And this Abomination as a villain, I'm not really a big fan of, and he just kind of feels like the Hulk, but bigger and meaner and stronger and stuff. And we saw that with Iron Man. And Phase 1 definitely does copy some things about the villain is basically just a carbon copy of the hero. And I think in this film, it shows probably the most. The action in the film is okay. The final fight between Hulk and Abomination is fun, but the visuals, it just kind of look like a PS2 game. They're not very convincing. The movie's story structure I actually really like. They tell Bruce Banner's origin story in the opening credits, which I like. So you don't have to sit through it in the original, main film, because that would be boring. Robert Downey Jr. at the end of the film is just classic, and Lou Ferrigno gives a cameo. Pretty exciting. Overall, The Incredible Hulk, I just don't really have much to say about it. It's a pretty bland, average MCU film that's not terrible, but not really that great. I'll give The Incredible Hulk a C+. Now, I know it sounds like a pretty low grade, but I still really do enjoy it, and I still have fun with the movie. I just don't think it's like the best movie, which I don't really think anybody thinks The Incredible Hulk is like the best movie or anything. So those are my thoughts on The Incredible Hulk. What do you think? Let us know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe and that post notification bell so you know when I upload another video. So you can check out my podcast I do every other Tuesday with a friend of mine. It's called the Movie View Podcast. And you guys can check out my Instagram at JeneralScottDaniel77. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. General out.